Greetings everyone, welcome back, and we're going to jump straight into this 9Z versus Knights. It is Theme Park, and I'm joined by one, the only Fellow. How are you, sir?
I'm doing pretty good. I talked about this earlier while we were waiting on break that I am hyped up on caffeine, so I am not tired whatsoever. Glad you're on the same page for that as well. And hopefully both Knights and 9Z are just as ramped up as I am to begin this matchup on Theme Park, a map that Knights specifically has shown to be pretty comfortable on for the most part, winning it, I believe, 7-5 last time they brought it out. And for 9Z, it's still a bit more of an unknown entity for them, but if you don't have bookwork on your opponents, then it might be a little bit harder to read into what they want to bring out.
Yeah, it's interesting for 9Z looking at their previous track record. Of course, they're struggling in the group. They really are desperate to get a win on the board. But that Theme Park, they haven't played it, but also they've never burned it. They've always let it go through later into the map pick ban and let their opponents take it out. So obviously comfortable, it's within their pool. Otherwise, I have no idea why you would possibly pick a map that your opponent has played and won. So 9Z, my eyes are on you. I'm focusing on you to show me and prove me wrong that why you have picked Theme Park.
Thrown on the board immediately for 9Z, their lineup looking to be very favored towards a bunker kind of composition, and having both the Goyo and Cade in implies to me that they're going to be hoping that they can deny any walls from being opened up. And best case scenario, if that were to happen, they can utilize these Vulcan packs to deny any immediate entryway into the main choke points, like that dragon doorway, like the split hallway as well, but also realizing how easy it can be to at the very least get the yellow wall opened up if a roam clear is successful. They even have a Vulcan pack deployed over by that back position as well. So still having a bit of insurance policy in case these Electro Claws and Impact Grenades aren't enough to stop any hard breach from going down. And for a moment, I thought, Novi, we might see the Thatcher being taken off the board, which would have been a huge upset for Knights against that Cade Claw. But luckily, it's instead Tuku on that Operator, and they still have a primary hard breach of Dirty on the Habana, and also some secondary breach by Jiri as well. So they have plenty of options if they're able to clear up this top.
A really well-rounded comp, of course, important on Theme Park with the expansiveness that both floors have. Is very easy to get picked off, and suddenly if you lose your hard breacher, you lose your soft destruction, you are, beyond stuck between a rock and a hard place. So Knights, very balanced. 9Z, I want to say, quite similarly, with lots of cover. Interestingly, with the Azami band, of course, Azami's super strong, but those Kiba barriers, Christ, they are so good. Specifically on preventing the cafe push in, it's a nightmare to get through that area, plus just disappearing the windows on the dragon stairs and the little mezzanine at the top. It just gives more credence to the defenders to hold those extended sight positions and also keep control of the top stairs. But here we go, Tuku stepping on in, being the first player in. No resistance so far from 9Z.
Knights as well, not putting all their eggs into this basket of a cash over clear. They've got a few people step up over by the roof, maybe the Flores of Tom dropping down below to go either by the cafe doorway or the arcade window just by it. And someone as well by the hatch, and I believe Mate just dropped down as well, expecting a bit of a pushback here, even wins that first engagement against the Jaeger up above. And Tuku maybe expecting a bit of reinforcements here, still bundled up over by Bunk. Pixie specifically still wielding this position, but in a moment's notice they could easily fall back. But they look to double down, still looking to waste even more time and resources, and still hopefully look to get out with a kill before eventually falling away, and that's exactly what happens. A nice trade by 9Z as they have to eventually give up the top floor, but it's not for nothing.
And that was a position Pixie was in above in that arcade that, in theory, could have gone a bit more aggressive. Try to get the player for Knights who was going to try and trade and push that advantage even further, but discipline from 9Z to step back. You've managed to even the man count. You've wasted a bit of time. You're going to keep Knights on their toes. It's good fundamentals within that siege. Also noting that Knights only has one drone still left in play, apart from the Rotera drones, which are getting used now, which there is one left, which is about to be sent in. This is not a lot of information for Knights to use in the latter portion of these rounds.
That not having a lot of vertical as well can allow some of these power positions to still be alive in the late round, but luckily with that Capital Bolt, Jiri is able to shut down Victory and bring back the man advantage here for Knights, but it's swiftly traded out. A beautiful flank by Pixie nets him too, and all of a sudden 9Z take back the lead.
And no information on those stairs, no flank drones to watch. Pixie just murders Knights straight on up, and Unfixed gets another one to add to that tally. It's all on the Flores. Tom has a difficult task ahead, but there's no way you're going to get away with this one. Down into the kill box that is that entry hallway. Just like that, 9Z. A bit, I don't want to say shaky. They lost that opening engagement, but very well recovered, and that has got to shout huge amounts of praise towards Pixie.
Yeah, not giving up the top floor for free was a pretty good call to make by Pixie, still being a little bit aggressive, not falling down into the bunk hatch to give up the top floor almost immediately, fighting back a little bit closer towards the arcade staircase and killing Mate who was on the sledge is a massive pick. No longer having as much verticality that you can use to force back players from the armory side of the map is a huge benefactor. I think that stopped the yellow wall from being opened up completely since they couldn't locate that Cade Claw in an effective time. So Knights were forced to go in a little more direct, which was the main plan that 9Z were working for in their favor. Noticing that the hatch was opened up and there was a huge presence over there by the Knights, Pixie decides to flank up yellow, noticing no one there, and he nets a double kill on top of that as well, guaranteeing that 9Z will win that first floor bomb site and now get to comfortably go up above into bunk and daycare and up to extend into office room and initiation as well. A really common tactic that you see basically mirrored when you go to the other bomb site on the top floor of office and initiation, which if this site obviously goes well for 9Z like it did Armory and Throne, we're probably going to see that one next.
And it leaves Knights with two main direct approaches. You can make sure you can get cafe control, then work your way through, open up that wall. Or, you know, like you said, go through initiation, through control, and work your way through that side of the site. Does allow 9Z a lot of freedom in terms of those rotations. The fact that you got the yellow stairs right in the middle, and that means you can rotate up and down, and then up from Dragon as well. Knights has to be really careful. Their drone economy has to be on it, and last round it sucked, for lack of a better term, and they got punished for it, like massively. Pixie should not have been able to rotate so easily and catch them off guard.
Well, so far the drone economy looks to be pretty top-notch, and on top of that, they also have plenty of other info operators they can use in this round, like the Lion scans wielded by Tuku, and also Tom, who is currently running as the Iana, and actually needing to have a lurk over by the side of lab and storage, and even a drone up above as well can maybe combine that with his frag grenades to net some sort of kill without putting in a lot of danger towards his person, but still just as much effort as he normally would go for in a one-on-one gunfight. The Knights so far putting a huge emphasis in these window repels. Having Dirty open up that back wall by the break room could allow a really deadly cutoff to make sure no one can play over by that yellow hallway or the staircase comfortably, allowing the rest of your teammates to maybe push in through waiting room in the late round, but not be punished for it by an anchor.
We saw Pixie play, well, just outside Cafe with eyes on the hatch, and once you start setting up those crossfires all the way through, Theme Park has these lovely long lines of sight once you open them up. Upnade's going through, doesn't connect, unfortunately, but it does mean that they've got those drones on the site, and that's a huge level of information that can give over to the side of Knights, knows who are going for those engagements, but no blood has been spilt yet as we go into the final minute.
Still a bit of a standstill here for Knights, like you mentioned. They finally begin to push their way in through Cafe, but only with the help of the Osa shield. Doesn't accomplish as much as they would expect. The Toxic Babe forces the hand of Tuku. Pixie's there to spring up on him. A double kill now for the Frost, and once again, this smoke grenade combination is causing so much chaos here for the Knights. They don't have an effective way to trade in this 2v4.
9Z looking very comfortable on that defensive side. Tom stuck on the arcade stairs. And he's saying, Jerry, come over, come help me. And he's like, I'm on the window. What else can I do beyond just jumping on in? And if he does that, he has to literally pre-fire his way through. Tom is looking for any kind of movement from 9Z, but they're not giving any of it. The fundamentals here are great from 9Z, refusing to peek until the last second. Finally, a kill goes Tom's way, and that's Pixie eventually slain, sitting on a 5-1 scoreline. And here's Knights going aggressive into Unfixed and Victory, who take them out. 9Z moving 2-0. Way better than I was expecting. Really nice stuff.
And unfortunately, no lurk over by waiting room, no other chaos factor like having someone lurk up yellow. It allowed your two defenders over by the top of arcade and cafe to easily deny that first entry point of the window hop in with some toxic babes, and also the Osa hopping in through cafe by just pivoting and waiting for the Osa to overextend away from that talon shield. As you know, being the attacking side, you have to make that first move. 9Z can just play passive and burn out the timer, which they did so quite well, really forcing the hand of Knights at that massive disadvantage. And I noticed for a moment that 9Z were rocking to maybe go to this bomb site of Lab all the way back around number 1, and they went off it to go to Throne instead, and now they're bringing it out as their tertiary bomb site. So not really too shocked they wanted to go here for this third and final pick, but with them also doing so well on Bunk and Daycare, office initiation wouldn't have been a bad option for them either.
Yeah, their setup is absolutely fine. It works for them. Knights didn't find really any kind of gap in the armor between the armor plates, and also 9Z bringing the Solus and the Mute, that double information denial, and then with the barbed wire being brought on the Jaeger, the Banshees on the Melusi, it just funnels them into these chokeholds. So even if you clear out this top floor, there's a lack of information, there's all these narrow corridors that you're going to get slowed down in because of the gadgetry, and then to add insult to injury, you've got that smoke with the toxic babes to just suffocate your way and completely deny an entranceway into the site. In theory, 9Z has a very, very well-rounded comp here. Knights just needs to find a way in which they can either get rid of those mute jammers, start clearing a path of information through and get picks, or they need a completely different solution to this.
Knights so far having a big emphasis on this top to bottom extension, or at least dealing with the extension part and having a full top to bottom clear. It makes a lot of sense. They've got two vertical operators of both Mate and Tom. So if they're able to clear out Cafe and some of those minor parts of the map around it, they could get some vertical on the bomb site, flush out some of those anchor spots, and maybe have a pretty fluid execute. But of course, that's a huge list that Knights has to go through and just kind of check off one by one. And only now do they begin to apply a little bit of pressure on this initial roam from both the hatch by the yellow hallway and also from that back wall that the Ace has opened up once again. Dirty not able to win an engagement off of it, but does force away one defender, Pixie. And in the background, you have at least one open engagement going the way of Tom. So far, it's been a pretty solid start here for the Knights, but they haven't gotten out of the fray just yet. You still have Nilvi to worry about wielding that shotgun, playing so aggressive, not giving things up just yet.
And that's going to keep 9Z back in the round. Tom is starting to work his way through, finds Unfixed looking the wrong direction. That's a quick 1-2. Victory goes down, looking for the third, but Pixie's ready and waiting in Cafe. But that doesn't matter. Tuku trades that out. So with a minute remaining, it's all on Nil V. He's on that smoke, got both toxic babes, but not the easiest to deal with, especially with that line with one more charge in the E1D to rumble his way through to finding his location.
Still plenty of time here for the Knights to take a few seconds back, have a bit of a reset here, figure out where exactly Nilvi is playing at. And currently, he's now stacked up over by Barrel. He heard a bit of an audio call near the beginning of this lobby from Arcade, and he's looking to maybe take an engagement, but so far the passivity here is so potent by Knights, really forcing the hand of the smoke in a bad position. And he's still off the bomb side. If the Knights really wanted to, with having proper info, they could just hop in and force a post plant.
Yeah, just hit the EU1D, jump on in, start sticking the plant, and then just have someone watching. Here we go. He's now stuck in position, actually shooting that drone out is going to reveal and give the sound cue over to the rest of the team. Oh, how was that not a headshot? Goes for the repeat. Dooku swings out, removes Nilvi, and that's Knights getting their first win on the board. 2-1 on Theme Park.
And look at the coordination by Knights was flawless. You had two people over by Cafe, one on the window, one putting a bit of pressure over by the doorway leading into Cafe as well. And again, having your ace across the map, opening up that back wall so no one can help recontest in the late round from either waiting room or yellow stairs. So sure, no one immediately got a kill off of that Selma being deployed by break room, but it did force 9Z in a very closed and trapped position where they either have to give up the top floor or potentially risk it and take some of these 50-50 gunfights against attackers who are still outside the map. They haven't even entered in just yet until Tom picked the perfect time to going through the window and net a double kill, as that was the exact moment where 9Z began to rotate away from that top floor. So not only was it pristine coordination by Knights, but also really effective timing to make sure that 9Z were being pressured from every which way and couldn't recontest the top floor whatsoever once Knights began to start pushing them away.
Knights, very, very good job at making, identifying that, but also for 9Z in terms of their strategies there, no real exit strategies beyond just running past open hatches and jumping over stairs that already have lines of sight through the windows. 9Z, in a 5 vs 5, their setup works. Beyond that point, it feels like maybe they haven't thought about where they're going to transition those defensive lines to then set up crossfires. And that's something on Theme Park you have to do, especially with his extended site setups. But here's an operator we don't see every day, the Kavira. Kind of a one-and-done operator in terms of you're going to bring it out for one round, you're probably not going to bring it out for another, but hiding behind the desk, I don't know if Victory's been spotted out. I don't think he has. He hasn't been droned out, certainly, so he's under the desk. Fellow, could be an interesting one. Kavira, thoughts?
I don't hate it, especially since the last time we saw Knights attack from Cash, it was just one attacker. If you can isolate someone as a Kavira in a 1v1 and down them for an interrogation, that is a huge risk to take, but an even bigger reward to have. But it's the polar opposite for Knights this time. Ooh. They have everyone focused in on the Dragon side of the map, and they're probably going to try and have a direct take from maintenance and execute into the bomb site from that direction, even having the air jabs by Dirty to make sure if there is still someone on the top floor, they're going to be located by that audible call and potentially shut down if they are still prone on the ground. But Victory being so close to Dragon from Cash, he could actually avoid some of these air jabs and maybe find a huge flank with that shotgun.
This is making me very uncomfortable. What is Victory waiting for? How has this not been read? How has there not been a drone just double-checked that area? But no, the Montaigne's going to work his way through to the center of the door, but that's a quick trade. 1-2 with the explosions. So even Stevens. And here is Victory, silent stepping his way towards the attackers. We're down in Dragon. Is the interrogation going to happen?
No
Here
way.
we go. Give me all your secrets. What's the reaction? Now every single player from Knights is scrambling along with Neil V finding a headshot. And they've just got to abandon the building because it's not safe anymore. The Kavira has worked and has interrogated her team into a strong position.
40 seconds left to work with here for the Knights, but they only have one active gun. Again, Jiri on the Montaigne, such a vulnerable position against that shotgun. Luckily, Mate can get the refrag, but in a 1v3 in such limited time, it doesn't seem likely that Knights are coming out on top with this victory. Mate will recover the diffuser, but once again, with no one to help, cover him if you were to get that case down, it seems unlikely he'll go for the objective play and just has to win these one-on-one gunfights. Maybe expecting someone up above, even having info that there is someone at the bomb site to allow him to rotate into split. With that being a pretty heavy funnel point here for the offense, an easy crossfire could eliminate this threat and probably give 9Z the round with it being in red time. There's the EMP to cause a little bit of a masking effect of his sound, but luckily the Jaeger is still there, gun up and ready to spring out. 9Z, 3-round wins so far in the first half, and off of a really big gamble, do they get the ball rolling on that secondary throne defense.
A gamble, but it works. Go big or go home. It doesn't really matter how they get there as long as the round win keeps ticking up. And 9Z looking very comfortable. Knights certainly taken by surprise. Is that strategy going to work again? I have a lot of doubts. Knights are going to be really on it, but it does take advantage of a significant flaw in their fundamentals, which they showed in the first round, which is their drone economy is not the strongest. They're not protecting their drones, being careful, and making sure that there are flanks here and there checked. Knights falling by the wayside. 9Z, hats off, very good punish.
Not only that, but when you are usually droning out from the cache side over through a proper roam clear, and you don't see anyone immediately, but there is no vigil scanner, for example, you're going to assume, oh, the room is clear because you didn't check anyone. But not taking that extra step, look behind the table, which is a really uncommon spot, it did punish Knights. Albeit, for Devil's Advocate, you don't see someone there all too often, except for maybe in your ranked games, perhaps going in for a big play. But for 9Z, it was a really well-calculated one at that, and a round-winning one. for that too. 9Z now opting to go back up above into bunk and games, and their lineup looks roughly the same, except now they don't have a smoke, which was really effective at, closing that potential gap against the Knights. And speaking of which, for their team, their lineup is incredibly different as well. They don't have an Osa available to them. They don't have any hard breach. Instead, they might be opting to get hyper aggressive through some of these window repels, perhaps with the help of Mate on the Namaru, which could maybe throw 9Z off guard. But again, with those frost mats and more, elongated positions, it could really go either way, just depending on if 9Z can realize and react in time what the Knights are doing.
Again, I'm a fan of these fast and brutal plays, but they need the information to back them. You've got black mirrors you're walking into, and there's no real way, apart from with the Twitch, to actually clear these, which means you have to be on it. You need to know exactly what you're pushing into. One EU, 1D has been used, but so far, Knights taking their sweet time to try and get into the positions that they need. Unfixed on yellow stairs, and that's another drone gone. The mute jammers are going to make that even more difficult. But Knights, despite their comp and what it looks like, not rushing in. They're taking their time and ticking their boxes on the checklist, but dotting their I's and crossing their T's, and they look to be setting themselves up properly.
At least they're not going in completely unprepared. Is Mate gonna go up into the hatch that leads to bunk from barrel? I'd really hope not, as that would be a very big giveaway. Maybe they're hoping that the rest of the Knights can, cause a lot of chaos and a lot of, discomfort across that side of the map. But no, Mate's gonna just walk up arcade stairs with the SMG and win the opening engagement. What is going on, Novi?
How has he got two there? The headshot onto Pixie was beautiful. Here's the trade, but no, Victory and Unfixed getting torn asunder. That's basically almost a flawless round. Mate with a triple kill to close us out. Knights, this aggression, the speed. 9Z was caught completely unaware and get decimated for it.
And again, like we talked about just briefly, for 9Z, they weren't aware of an arcade stairs player. They were so focused on the rest of Cafe, the hatch that was opened up by yellow, and even a drone that was spotted by the yellow staircase, potentially worried about someone lurking from that position, a really common position you want to have as the attack, because again, those really long angles limits where 9Z can play on that top floor. Having Mate thrown into the mix of all of that from arcade, a spot that again 9Z wasn't too focused on, it really did damage to 9Z's defense, finding 3 separate kills and really tipping the tide in the favor of Knights. And 9Z, funny enough, opting to go back to this bomb site of Bunk and Daycare. I honestly can't fault them too much, because Lab was a really tricky bomb site for them to defend, as it was their tertiary pick. So it's better than nothing, since they can't go back to Armory. But now for the Knights, it looks like they're not going to opt for the pocket strat of that Amaru play, and instead go back to what they were trying to implement earlier in this first map.
That hole in the armor for 9Z with the arcade stairs. Fingers crossed, they should be checking that this time around. So Knights recognizing that gift may be not present again. They're going to have to come up with something different. They go back to what they've practiced and is more safe and secure in terms of their lineup. More utility available to them. But now for 9Z, my worry, you mentioned that tertiary site, and 9Z looked good, but I wasn't about to get on the hype train for maybe 9Z pushing us on, to an upset until they got 4 rounds. I was expecting them to win their primary and secondary twice from the way they looked. Now, I'm a little bit worried, because Knights have started to turn up the pressure, and 9Z really need to bounce back. A 3-3 round differential on their defensive half. Not really good enough for 9Z to carry that through an attack, especially seeing it's one of their weaknesses.
And again, in terms of bookwork, we don't know how well 9Z are prepared for their attacking half. Maybe similar to Knights, their drone economy isn't looking too great, and you end up receiving a lot more scrappy fights because of that in the late round. So having this 4-2 half would be a really solid cushion for 9Z. Seems a little a two-faced to say solid cushion, but I think everyone here gets the point that I'm trying to bring across here for 9Z. They would love to have this 4-2 half and really work off the fact that going back to Bunk was the right idea, rather than reattempting to go into that bottom floor bomb site of Lab and Storage. Tom opting to go underneath once again, starting his way over by Lab and maybe using the Lion Scan to force some of these defenders to stand completely still while procking out this frag grenade, but not a lot of info at the right time will be a dud for Tom because of that with those frag grenades, and now his position is figured out pretty swiftly by 9Z because of that grenade.
You could see the reaction on the arcade stairs to rotate around and get ready for that push. They're not called out a second time. But here's Mate. He's the hero player on that Amaru, just to roll up with the SMG-11 and start popping heads. Using that Talonmate shield to use it as basically an information tool, a mini Montang, is one word. Tom still has a frag grenade in pocket. He's going to throw it up, but... Oh, the timing on it! That's so unfortunate for Nil V. That is appalling, but oh well. Knights is going to take that all the way into the bank and cash it. Tom is traded by Unfixed, but the damage has been done. Pixie is keeping them once more in tow, but Tuku fights back. Incredibly vicious. Unfixed tagged, pushed back to yellow stairs. Not enough to hold on to the site, but Knights has 25 seconds, and they need to get a move on if they want to take this round.
Still trapped in a really awkward position. The Flores hops in. That's case control now for 9Z. Beautiful shot landed by the Jaeger, as for the Knights, their only option here is just to barge their way in through that cafe double door and hope for the best. The final flash grenade tossed out by Tuku. He's been finished off by Victory. Unfixed, sure, he's injured, but Dirty at a really awkward spot in this 1v2. Has to tussle with the SMG-11 and simply cannot win that engagement. 9Z, a close call after losing that entry engagement, but still keeping things strong in the end game. Pays off for them so well by granting them that 4-2 half we just talked about.
And that's their first win condition. It was to get at least 4 rounds on that defensive side to really put themselves in a good position to then switch on to their attack. Knights opting to go for Armory Throne Room. We've seen, to be honest, with Theme Park, it's one of the reasons it's such a beautiful map is all the sites are pretty good. You can kind of get them to work in whatever way you want. So there might be some preference, but it certainly isn't as strong a hierarchy as we see on some other maps within the pool.
Interesting call here by Tom to bring out the Bandit. I like the idea of it because you know that Thatcher is on the board. So in the late round, if you can successfully stop that Thermite charge from going off and you can avoid those EMPs, that's great. Because you go back to the earlier talking point we had of having the attackers forced to funnel in through only Split, whether it be through the hatch or the doorway, and also Dragon. The only issue with trying to Bandit trick on this bomb site in particular is a lot of the walls that are meant to be reinforced also have a soft portion of it right at the top, which, funny enough, our observer perfectly timed showing that off, so I appreciate that whoever you are observing today. But with that portion of the wall being soft, that can allow something like a frag grenade to be tossed out, maybe even some stuns or smokes as well to obscure the vision of Tom on that Bandit and still allow that wall to be opened up for the offense. Not only that, but you're not Bandit tricking yellow, for example. It's still a really common place on the map to get opened up for the attack.
And there's also two walls there that can be opened on opposite sides, and Bandit can't be in 2 places at once. You got to sort of pick which one you're just going to sit there and try and trick. Otherwise, you can just leave the shockwires there, and the EMPs, you're not going to be able to run over, pick them up, place them down in time to stop that thermite charge from going off. So, yeah, interesting. Tom, eyes will be on you. Has that Nitro Cell in pocket, though, and we've seen how devastating explosives can be. But Faxi's going to be the first to push on in through Gong and start working his way into a position where he could use that soft destruction above the wall to chuck in some frag grenades and cause some havoc for the defenders.
Similar attacking ideology for 9Z for Throne, like we saw Knights implement earlier, except no Montaigne. Instead, Unfixed is on the Brava, which could be used to maybe destroy a little bit of utility that's in the bomb site or have a few flank cams for late round. One of them in particular could be the one at the top of Dragon to guarantee no one's trying to flank from that position as you have that information if someone is, again, cycling cams. But so far, for 9Z, they've done a good job of clearing out the portion of the map they need to get in their pocket to get this maintenance wall opened up just shortly, and now they're setting up that exothermic charge as well in the background. Nilvi deploys the first one. A C4 rips out, almost killing him, but luckily he survives that blast and can still get this breach opened up, but someone playing close on the wall with that shotgun being Jiri, he could maybe deny this entryway if he can also avoid these stuns at the same time.
it's such a tight angle to swing that and check across the way as well as hard right is not really possible. Even with the flashes going out, you might have to double swing it. There we go, the flashes followed by the double swing, but it's a bloodbath. 9Z coming out on top just about, but actually Knights has the man advantage. Plant is being stuck by Nilvi, but it's pandemonium on the site. The plant goes down, but Nilvi is left to try and recover the pieces, and it's not enough. Knights win out from pure man advantage, and they'll take their third round of the game.
And unfortunately there, for 9Z, their original attack worked very well. Victory winning that first engagement against Jiri, but not having enough utility for the back of Throne was a major issue. That is one of the easiest spots to play in as a defender with no one coming in from split or even having the other wall by barrel opened up. With both of those avenues not being an option for 9Z, you can comfortably play in the back of Throne, especially with a C4, and stop a plant from going down, or at least kill the attackers that are trying to cover that diffuser going down. Not only that, but the Solus being able to, simply put it, be Solus and have your primary gadget give yourself info on your opponent's utility. He knew where exactly and how exactly he was going to flank in that round to net a kill up above and also add more options for the Knights to retake, even if that diffuser goes down. So really good recovery by the Knights, despite 9Z not only winning that entry engagement, but also having a lot of utility focus across the bomb site so they could actually, push in and not have to focus on anyone immediately by armory with that smoke.
Now, Knights going to that bunk and daycare. They've brought the Black Mirror in, but my issue is on that Black Mirror near the break room that looks towards initiation and the other side of the map, there's nothing in this lineup on the defensive side that is going to stop the Selma charges from Ace popping open that window, throwing them on the wall, and then clearing that window. There's nothing to stop it unless a run out or some kind of peek comes through. 9Z, if they identify that can pretty easily clear a huge defensive position for Knights very early on in the round.
Well, the night is still young, of course, for 9Z. Only 30 seconds have eclipsed so far in this round, and it seems like a majority of the offense want to start their way over on the Cathay side of the map. Really can't fault them. They have a lot of proper tools for the job when it comes to dealing with those deployable shields normally stacked up by the Cafe hallway. They've got Reparo drones, maybe a Gone 6 or 2 could be deployed as well by Pixie specifically, and also some frag grenades too if things really get desperate in the late round. But only having to worry about magnets and Surya gates, I could imagine it wouldn't take very long for someone to prop in an effective Reparo drone, and that would immediately fizzle away that shield. And seems like someone was getting rather aggressive by the break room wall, expecting this position to be opened up by a Selma charge, and he's just destroying them. So now this angle that can be really potent for the attack is just off the table because, well, nobody can't do anything about someone being that aggressive by the rotate.
You could see Ace going, do I throw another one? like what do I do here? And you can see 9Z is pausing. They were banking on getting that break room wall open. Now they finally managed to do it, actually forcing the swing in for the Ace. And Tom is looking for it. He's got the audio call, swings around the corner, but it's Knights taking all the kills so far. Unfixed manages to trade one back. But is that going to be enough for 2 versus 3? Unfixed is doing his best to try and keep them in the round. Victory looking for another. And Fellow is resulted in a 2-on-2, maybe even a 2 versus 1. This is falling apart for Knights for just Jiri. The last one in the... Oh, what? A Surya gate.
What?
Removing him. I haven't seen that one before. That has completely changed this round on its head. Unfixed going for the plant. An incredibly risky play, but it might just work. Jiri had all the time in the world to try and approach in that instance, but doesn't want to walk into a crossfire, and now it's up to Jiri to try and recover this round for the Knights.
Such a tricky spot to play in here for 9Z. Unfixed, basically glued to this bomb chassis, but finally he picks an opportunity to move a little bit closer towards that rotate. The Nitro Cell missing as well. Jiri no options but to get aggressive against this Flores, and it seems like Unfixed is aware, but no, the audio! He looks away at just the wrong time. Siege timing in a nutshell, and it pays off for Knights as Jiri's got plenty of time left in the tank to get this disabled down as the second half is tied off 4-4 going into the 9th.
What an exciting round ending in the most anticlimactic way possible. From siege timing of all things. Like, come on, that was so good. We had a Syria gate kill. Like, that doesn't happen. That just doesn't exist. Oh, my lord, 9Z. I was gonna say, if they don't call a tactical timeout here, they're actually trolling. Like, you just had the most like heartbreaking, frustrating round that you just lost. Take the timeout, have a chat, calm down, and bring it back. Because this is the tertiary site, right? We talk about the primary, secondary, tertiary. Tertiary is usually the site you'd expect the defensive side to be weakest in. That's why they pick it third, due to the locks on the other sites. Here, 9Z really needs to get some momentum back.
Especially after two really heartbreaking round losses where 9Z, they look to be either keeping it even and competitive against the Knights, or they flat out have the advantage from the get-go, and all of a sudden, one minor hiccup, and Knights will just push 9Z all the way back out and ended up winning not only Throne as the primary bomb site, but also Bunk for their secondary option, now bringing out Lab as well, with an extension-based composition I could imagine that would really help assist not only the top floor, but also positions like Armory and Throne. You tend to try to hold towards the late round, as if you have a defender by split, and there's someone coming down from arcade stairs, that's a really easy spot to kill an attacker working in from that staircase, trying to go into the bomb site properly. So for the Knights, this extension is obviously going to be a make or break, considering how much of the map they have at their disposal to roam in, and also how boxed in Lab and Storage is. I feel like we didn't really touch up on that point all too much, Novi, but it is like one of the smallest bomb sites, period, not even just in theme park.
It is tiny. There's no room, and the fact that it's also on that corner position of the map, attackers have direct access with that window.
Yeah,
there's very few sites on across the competitive pool that are like that. Usually you have to at least push in somewhere to get close enough to the actual bomb site into a position you can plant. In theory, you could just jump in the window and hit F and start planting. It just depends whether Knights and the defenders recognize that possibility and put measures and fail-safes in which they can prevent that from happening.
Well, Knights haven't heard any bustle so far while defending on this top floor. Again, another shield placed over by the cafe hallway, as if you can get cafe control as an attacker, that essentially clears out almost all of storage for an anchor to play in, allowing that window hop in you talked about quite well a moment ago, Novi, and also a good chunk of Lab if you can get into that arcade hallway as well, right alongside cafe. So basically 2 birds with 1 stone if you can get inside of the map. But for now, 9Z focused more on a horizontal take rather than a vertical one, which again, talking about that directness you can have for a bomb site like Lab and Storage doesn't seem like a bad idea. And with almost everyone playing up above, funny enough, this could work out. There's no one in Throne or Armory, and 9Z have read into that perfectly.
And remember, 9Z are the only team, not even Knights, managed to get a plant round. Every single attack round, it's only 2, granted, but 9Z has managed to get the plant down both times on both the primary and secondary site. They're very good at prioritizing that objective over just chasing kills and going for the gunplay. But it is tricky. Despite many players being on that top floor, there's a lot of angles down through those floorboards that can pose a problem. Tuku takes the first engagement, actually is on that bottom floor, shoots through the window, getting tagged off and backs out, but is now in quite an exposed position to be swung from barrels.
Luckily though, no one can really jump the gun just yet on Tuku's position. Sure, you could coordinate both the window and doorway attack, but with someone above by that arcade balcony, it's not too much of a threat, and he actually reads into this once again. Tuku! The aggression, the gamble in that 50-50 gunfight nets him yet another one, and it seems as if everyone's just dropping like flies against this Goyo stacked up by arcade! A quadra kill for Tuku! It might not be the ace for him as Pixies across the map, but maybe Knights will be a little more lenient towards this and allow him to go for full 5.
They have to, surely, at this point. No, Mike's gonna ruin that one, mate. Says, no, thank you. I want that fight. Literally jumping over the barricade on the yellow stairs to confirm it. But Knights, with a flawless round. 9Z might have identified an issue with their defense, but when you've got a player who's going to pop off like that in Tuku, it doesn't really matter.
And a really tough predicament now for 9Z, having a incredibly rough second half. Not a single string of luck has been caught by them. They've played against every single bomb site and have not found the perfect recipe for success on any of them so far. Knights have pretty much matched their tempo to a T, if not have even done better in terms of ramping up that aggression. And now we're back to probably the best bomb site you could go to for theme park, that being Armory and Throne. Bombs that I almost talked about a little bit too fast there. And the lineup for Knights looks to be roughly the same, maybe having a slightly bigger emphasis on the roam, but they already had that last time they played Throne. It's just 9Z didn't try to play into that. Now with the change up of Jackal in play and there being no Nomad for 9Z, I could imagine they'll have a bigger emphasis. Oh, never mind. Just kidding. Victory decided to just jinx me. I was going to say, maybe they'll clear out the entire map this time, but now with no primary vertical operator and with a Nomad, that's probably not going to be the case.
And without the Brava, they might struggle to get rid of some of those mute jammers, having no clutch drones to rely upon. The 9Z have to be cautious. And even if they remove the mute jammers, you still got the Solus, who she's going to be running around, finding as many drones as she can and damaging that drone economy for 9Z. 9Z, though, we could be having a very different tone right now if like both the first 2 rounds had swung their way with the plants and everything in the post-plant situation. Just a bit of luck, and 9Z would be on match point right now. We'll be talking about Knights trying to recover to OT, but sadly, that's not the way that cookie crumbles for 9Z. Knights are in the lead for the first time this game, first time this series, and they look very, very confident. They seem to have woken up right now.
And although this is the map pick of 9Z, that leads to even more concern for them, especially going into map number 2, because now you have Knights going on the Cafe, another map they're very comfortable with playing, and that leaves very limited options. We know that 9Z have been, comfortable with leaving this map on the board in best 3s, but they haven't gotten the chance to go to it. But Cafe, it's a story where they have gone there, but just not done all too well. So this is kind of the make or break moment. They have to win this next round to keep things just close against Knights and maybe have a chance of winning their map pick.
Yeah, they picked it into 6 Karma, and that's, well, A, a really good team to go into, but B, they didn't unfortunately perform particularly well. They got 7-3'd, so not the greatest of score lines. But their focus is going to be on this one right here. EU1D is going to be fumbling around, looking for any defenders who get a little too close. It's a trade 1-for-1, but it's Mate who pushes Knights slightly ahead in terms of man count. You can see the players spread out across a killing field. A huge crossfire, and Dirty destroys 9Z. They're taken out of this round. Nilv left with an impossible mountain of a 1 vs 4 to try and bring the team to some semblance of a position in which they can win from, but I really don't think it's going to be possible, fellow. Look, he's even barricaded out from getting any closer to the site. This is appalling. This is just wasting as much time as possible. Nilv stands no chance here, and with 15 seconds on the clock, surely you take the time to talk to your team, or you full-on send it for another kill, or, fire another barricade, because apparently Knights have decided to actually barricade everything at this point.
4th round in a row for Knights, as they are looking pristine on their defensive half. Not only that, but the dedication they took to the roam on the first floor was also great, because they had one player in lab, another one by storage, and finally, not even a roamer essentially, but someone to just assist the roam by split doorway. That is one of the most diabolical crossfires you can set up, especially when the barrel wall isn't opened up. So they have to push down that first floor hallway into several different lines of fire. And the timing of 9Z when it came to dealing with that roam extension was not well done. They had someone across the map by both lockers and bathroom, I believe, yet they didn't wait for them to start putting pressure over from bathroom into that defender by storage. So they aren't really setting up a multifaceted attack. It's just two attackers that are kind of boxed into a hallway that have to deal with a crossfire that they aren't really prepared for. Knights taking full advantage of the lack of coordination that 9Z had in that round by just doing the exact opposite, having almost seamless coordination on that first floor roam, and they will once again be, well accounted for because of that. Now having map point on their opponent's selection of theme park, and just one round away from bringing us to Cafe as well, Novi.
Yeah, Knights looking incredibly comfortable and in control, most importantly. Something that 9Z on their defensive side with those setting of the crossfires, in a 5 vs 5, they had it on lock, but as soon as they suffered a loss somewhere in their team, those crossfires dissipated. There was pandemonium within the team. Knights seem a lot more comfortable in going, okay, they're pushing from here. This is how we pivot our defense. It's very on the fly, very controlled, and very coordinated, and they look really, really good. A lot better than they did on their attack, where they were struggling in terms of that coordination here or there. So good to see the improvement. Now it just remains, can 9Z try and step up and maybe push towards that OT?
Wow, Victor, you're already down to just 2 Rotero drones. That's really shocking, considering it's only been about 50 seconds now on the clock for 9Z. I think he'll still have enough utility to at least get the first shield off the board, and that luckily helps assist the Sledge, who's still by the Cafe doorway. Mate now shut down. So, a much better start for 9Z, I'd have to say. And the yellow wall, or at least the wall that looks into yellow, has still not been opened up. So even that mirror window could be used in a late round if there is an extension by 9Z, or at least a late rotate over by that control side of the map. That doesn't really seem to be the case. It looks to be pretty much a repeat of what we saw over by Cafe, but actually I was wrong. I spoke a little too soon. Pixie drops down the control hatch, so he could be someone to take into accountability in the late round, but for the moment, he'll just sit here, wait patiently, maybe expecting someone to flank up the Dragon Stairs or walk over by Cash Room, and he could maybe get a cheeky gunfight off of that, but currently there's no one over there. Pretty vacant over by Cash Room.
Nice. 3 of them turtling on site, just 1 sitting slightly adjacent and further away. So they're waiting for 9Z to start pushing into them. They've lost that early engagement. I think Mate went a bit too aggressive on Cafe and got pulled out by Faxi. And that's a rare opening kill actually going their way for 9Z. But Tuku, we've seen how much damage this player can do. It's starting to heat up. A long-range engagement by Faxi, but he's traded. But it's going the way of 9Z. They're starting to get the momentum. They're on a roll. It's all onto Dirty, who catches the Flores looking in the wrong direction, but Unfixed brings it home. 9Z are still in this 6-5. We're going the full 12 rounds in regulation time.
And for both Faxi and Pixie being able to really put Mate in a tragic spot for him. The shield is removed, so he isn't really in a proper position to fight off against the Cafe player. He's very exposed against that Sledge, and you still have to take into effect the yellow hatch drop. Sure, someone could find a trade onto you if they just fully commit to that, but that also implies you're still dying, which you don't really want to have happen in that position. So for Mate, best case scenario, he could take gunfight over by Cafe, then just re-invert all of his focus back onto the hatch, but that didn't happen. Actually, a really well-placed shot, one of the first 2 entry kills we've seen go his way, like you mentioned, Novi, funny enough. Huge benefit for 9Z, but they still have to clean up their act when it comes to attacking lab and storage, which was completely floundered by 1 man and 1 man alone. That was Tuku, an impressive quad kill by the front of Arcade, as once again, that coordination talking point was not there when they tried flushing him out.
Not at all. And Knights maybe identifying that and going, you know what, we're not going to go back to Bunker Daycare. We're not going to risk it. We're going to go for something a bit different. Let's go to that tertiary site and actually play it and push 9Z onto a disadvantage because it's something new. And a lot of teams have different approaches. Some go, okay, you know, a sort of an ego check. They'll go, okay, the strategy was fine. We just played poorly there, right? That was why we lost the hold. So we're going to go back to the site. Others and some coaches feel very strongly if you should always switch. You should never keep it the same if you have that option and there's no other reasonably good sites. Just so you're constantly keeping the attackers on their toes. Generally, the teams who I want to say are at that high level, they're the ones who tend to switch because they can so consistently turn it on when it counts, and when they switch from site to site, they know exactly what they're doing, and they usually have more tricks up their sleeves. How does 9Z approach this, though?
Seems so far that could maybe tease a bit of a direct approach instead. Pixie could be the one to play up above and just make sure no one gets vertical against them when going for that plant, while they still have a few attackers lurking across the map as well from the Dragon and maintenance side of the map, having Faxi and both Nilvi currently working their way a little bit closer towards Dragon proper, making sure no one's at the top of that staircase to go for a cheeky play in the mid round, as 9Z seems like they're just still trying to confirm where the best approach is from the attack. They've got the Twitch now by the barrel doorway, so no one can try to retake Armory and Throne, as that's once again left void here by the Knights. So it could be, again, like I mentioned, another horizontal take, but you still have to worry about positions like Arcade Stairs, which were a major threat to 9Z last time they went for this kind of attack.
Yeah, they've got to be super, super cautious here. And you can see a similar setup. You've got those two players, one on either bomb site, and that gives them that cross that goes all the way through. But this time, there's none in barrels. They're actually ahead, above the other players. And that's what 9Z has to be cautious for. A lot of them are on that horizontal level. If they're not too careful, they're going to walk in, and some cracks between the floorboards, like Mate is doing right now, can catch them off guard and potentially get that opening pick. But the opening pick goes to the side of Knights. Tuku from downtown with the Vector. Not an easy shot at all with that weapon all the way through. But Pixie, a great reply, but it's traded again, not expecting the second player within the daycare, and this is falling apart for 9Z, but Victory is in the bathroom trying to push through, but is getting contested. The flash is unfortunately not going his way. Where is the other player? Where is his teammates in the last 25 seconds? Flashing his way through, just sprinting on in. I think this is a Hail Mary play. He knows someone's behind the shield, tags him out. How was that not a headshot? Goes aggressive, but doesn't convert. And Tom pushes Knights ahead in this series.
And again, a massive win here on their opponent's map pick. Knights closing things out 7-5. Looking forward to Cafe, a place they're a lot more comfortable with in comparison to 9Z with their past experience. And overall, I'd have to say just better reactivity by Knights as a whole. They had almost everything accounted for, really. They were